Missing is directed by Will Merrick and Nick Johnson and stars Storm Reed, Joaquin Del Almeida, Nia Long, and among others. And in this story, it is a standalone sequel to 2018 Searching, in which the entire film is set on computer screens and screenshots and screen caps and everything, where you have essentially a girl who has her mother essentially go on vacation with her new boyfriend, and something happens to where her mother becomes missing. And pretty much the majority of it is the daughter having to find out what happened to her mother, and it's set during all these different computer screens and stuff that you'll see on video, on Skype, FaceTime, all kinds of stuff. And essentially it's race against time in order to find her. Now here's a little backstory. Now, the movie is, like I said, a standalone sequel to the first movie that came out in 2018 called Searching, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was a breath of fresh air for taking the kind of like not really found footage, but the whole like computer screen webcam kind of format, like you saw in that they failed to do, in my opinion, with Unfriended, and they made it really work its advantage by making it into a more grounded level with Searching, with a person missing and having to look for it. And here it got me interested because it seemed like they were taking that idea that really worked in Searching and upping it more, especially since they have the same writers that came back for this one. And so that's got me really curious. On top of that, it seemed like they flipped the roles, where you had, instead of the parents searching for the daughter, or it's the daughter searching for the parent. And so I thought, going into that was a really new, unique take of that was pretty interesting how they were going to do that. That got me curious. And so, after upon seeing the film, I can say that Missing is really good. I did have a lot of things I preferred more in Searching, but I still thought this was a very genuine, intense thriller that kept me on the edge and definitely had a lot of things that were not only had good twists and turns, but also, to an extent, it also kept the momentum going up with how much far you can go with a daughter having to search for her parent. And so, to get my pros out of the way, I thought that Storm Reed was really great in this. I'm not really like too familiar with her work. I've seen her in movies like The Invisible Man, and I only heard like that her biggest role that she came into in the mainstream was Wrinkle in Time, but I heard that movie was terrible. But I heard that, she's become a really good actress, and after seeing her in movies like The Invisible Man and this one, she really gets to showcase a lot of what she can do, especially, fearing for her life for her parents and stuff, like she does in that other film. And so, I thought she really carried this movie greatly, and she really does. You really feel for her as she goes along with trying to get her mom back. And the other biggest standout for me the most is actually Joaquin Del Almeida. I'm sorry if I can't get his name right. He was the villain from Desperado. I thought he was fantastic in this. He really has a lot of scenes that he steals, where he plays a guy that Storm Reed hires to try to go after, to try to look for her parents, her mother and everything. And he was not only funny at times, but he really did steal a lot of scenes that I thought were really great. And it was just really great seeing him in a big movie again after so many years. Because I haven't seen him in a movie probably since Fast Five, when he played the villain in that one. But he was great, and then the rest of the way the editing works in this, it really keeps it on the edge, because you're having it to where, since it is having to stick to a lot with, using FaceTime and a lot of computer screens and stuff on a laptop, throughout the majority, you're getting basically pieces of information given to you about like things in the background, text messages, video chats, things like that. And the way they work it to its advantage, like they did in the first film, was really fantastic, with how you're able to make it seem like it's all fit into one format, instead of having to see different screens. Though there are times where it does cut into different cameras that you'll see, and there's actually something I thought was pretty clever with how, I'm not going to go into detail, but let's just say it has to do with turning a certain story into a Netflix program. And I thought that was pretty clever the way they do it with the editing, because it makes it seem like you're watching a actual movie within the actual kind of webcam format. And then it cuts back, it pulls back, and it shows that's actually a Netflix program of a story that they're adapting into. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And one of the other things I got to appreciate is how the movie was able to blend in some stuff that was from the first Searching, and they make reference to that with the certain thing that comes into later with that they show at the beginning of it. So I thought that was really unique. And then just the way that the movie pieces together certain details on that you pick up on later on, I thought was clever. But that is something I will get into my kind of minor cons, where I will say that as much as the movie does become very unpredictable at times of where it's going, it does fall into some pretty familiar territory that I found kind of questionable after, if you really rewatch and kind of look back on certain things. Like, not going to go into spoilers, but let's just say that when it gets into its reveal in the third act, I think that if you really look back and see a lot of things that planned out, I found it not only kind of cliche with the way it plays into it, but also it just seems like it's kind of convenient on how certain things play out. And when you're guessing throughout, you can kind of easily tell on certain aspects of where the predictability comes into play on certain either red herrings or things that aren't red herrings that come into later. Because there is some really good red herrings in this that really keep the suspense going. But when you really take a look back and see how it plays out after upon seeing the film, you start to realize how very familiar and deviant it can be with that. On top of that, there's also some things that that happened that I found very convenient, that were easy to kind of pick up, that characters could easily that characters could easily solve, that I think kind of takes away a little bit of the tension out. And I think that they kind of did that possibly. I think that was only given because it was trying to do in a traditional movie format. Like, there's some that especially happens toward the end that I found myself like, okay, that is very convenient that character would do that this entire time, and it happens at the very last moment. So I thought that was a pretty, that did kind of take a little bit back from the movie being great. But overall, though, I still had a really great time with this movie, and I think it was still very well executed, and it's still a really pleasant surprise for the year. Because there were some other things that kind of felt the movie to cut back a lot with, I did find it a step below from the first Searching movie, but I still thought it was a great movie. I still thought it was really good, though. And so with that, I'm going to give Missing a very high, extremely high, compelling grade on the Film Phreeks meter. And so, for those of you who have also seen Missing and also Searching as well, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.